I want you to imagine a place for a second, just a really specific place. And it is universally famous.
Right.
Like, it has been celebrated in classic songs. It's been the setting for blockbuster movies. And it is honestly this globally recognized symbol of American culture. But if you pull out a modern map right now, or, pull up the GPS on your phone, you are not going to find it.
Right.
Technically speaking, this place does not exist.
It is, it's kind of the ultimate geographic phantom.
Yeah.
It's this road that is deeply embedded everywhere in our cultural imagination, but it's just entirely absent from our official modern navigation systems.
And that paradox is exactly what we are diving into today. So welcome to the deep dive. We are unpacking a fantastic article today titled, Whatever Happened to Route 66? And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the incredibly strange, really fascinating life cycle of America's Mother Road.
It's quite a journey.
It really is. We are going to track it from its very rugged birth in the 1920s right through its absolute golden age into what can really only be described as a calculated bureaucratic execution.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And finally, into this very surprising, almost zombie-like resurrection it is experiencing today.
And as we trace that timeline, we're really exploring a core, timeless human tension here.
Right.
It is the conflict between the pure, meandering joy of the journey, and our ruthless modern demand for ultimate efficiency.
Oh, absolutely.
And I can promise you, by the time we wrap up this deep dive, you're going to look at your next road trip. And even, honestly, the very algorithms your modern GPS uses to route you in a completely different light.
Okay, let's unpack this, because you really cannot understand why this road essentially died if you don't understand the specific, deliberate way it was built back in the beginning.
Right.
We have to go back to 1926. This is when the U.S. Bureau of Public Roads first introduced the federal highway system. Before this, state roads were basically a chaotic jigsaw puzzle of dirt paths.
Just a mess.
Yeah, a total mess. And when they mapped out Route 66, it didn't look like the highways we know today. Initially, much of Route 66 was designed to run directly alongside major railway lines. And it was not smooth cruising. I mean, it was incredibly rough, rugged, and mostly unpaved.
Yeah, it was essentially a dirt trail in many places.
Oh.
But, building alongside the railways was actually a stroke of pragmatic genius.
Oh, so?
Well, the land there was already surveyed, and more importantly, it was already graded to be relatively flat.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Plus, if you're building a massive road across the country in the 1920s, you need construction materials. So by shadowing the train tracks, workers could have heavy materials like gravel and lumber dropped off by rail right next to their work site.
That is super efficient.
Very. But to truly understand the brilliance of the route's overall map, we have to look at the historical insights from David Dunaway and Stephen Mandragock in their book, A Route 66 Companion. They point out that the overarching path of the road wasn't just, connecting dots between major cities. It was highly weather strategic.
And it's a fascinating constraint, right? Like, we rarely think about whether permanently dictating the physical, concrete path of a massive national highway.
Yeah.
Especially today when our cars are basically these climate-controlled bubbles.
Exactly. But in 1926, they had no choice. Cars were primitive. Heaters were practically non-existent in early models.
Wait, really? No heaters at all?
Yeah, barely anything reliable. Anti-freeze wasn't reliable either, and getting stuck in a blizzard in a rural mountain pass could easily be a death sentence.
Oh, wow.
So the planner started the route in Chicago, but the design intentionally dropped south as quickly as possible.
To avoid the snow.
Right. It angled down through Illinois and Missouri to hit the southwest, actively avoiding the Rocky Mountains and the heavy snows of the northern plains for the vast majority of the year.
Right.
And from there, it snaked its way westward across Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, utilizing a path where the winter was mild and the brutal summer heat would remain at least tolerable for the rudimentary radiators of the era.
That is, it is basically like a primitive 1920s real-world version of a Google Maps algorithm.
Yeah.
When you were driving and the app reroutes you to avoid a massive traffic jam, they were doing that, but they were permanently optimizing for the path of least meteorological resistance. Like, they were building the geographic detour right into the dirt and concrete itself.
That is a perfect way to look at it. And, this raises an important question for you listening right now. Think about your own daily commute.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like, how much does the physical geography, a bridge, a river, a steep hill, or even just the direction of the blinding morning sun dictate the exact routine of your life?
More than we realize, probably.
Definitely. We think of ourselves as so modern and untethered, but just like those travelers a century ago, the physical landscape is quietly pulling the strings of our daily movements.
Yeah, and that strategic weather routing paid off immensely because it made the road incredibly reliable year-round.
It did.
And that reliability naturally transformed it. It went from this rough, rugged path beside the train tracks into an absolute economic and cultural juggernaut.
The timeline of that transformation is just striking.
Yeah.
As we move into the 1930s, the country is plunged into the Great Depression, right? And the ecological disaster of the Dust Bowl.
A really dark time.
Yeah. People from the Midwest and the Plains desperately needed a way out, and they flocked to Route 66. It became a migration corridor.
Yeah.
Families were packing literally everything they owned onto these old jalopies and heading west, searching for agricultural work in California. This is exactly why John Steinbeck immortalized it as the Mother Road in The Grapes of Wrath.
Right.
It was a literal lifeline for hundreds of thousands of people.
And a busy lifeline of that magnitude requires serious infrastructure.
Yeah.
You can't have thousands of cars tearing up dirt roads every single day. Yeah. So by 1938, this route, which stretched over 2,000 miles through Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, it achieved a massive milestone. It became the very first U.S. highway to be continuously paved from end to end, which was a monumental feat of engineering and labor, to be honest.
Seriously.
And it wasn't just magic. It was largely driven by New Deal programs.
Oh, right.
The federal government put thousands of unemployed young men to work grading the land, laying crushed stone, and just pouring concrete. It was an economic stimulus wrapped in a public works project.
And that paving project was perfectly timed, because just a few years later, during World War II, Route 66 served as a vital national transportation artery.
Exactly. When the U.S. entered the war, they needed a reliable, all-weather route to move troops, supplies, and heavy military equipment. They had to get it from the industrial centers of the East and Midwest straight to the military bases and naval shipyards in California.
Which was the staging ground for the Pacific Theater. Right. Route 66 took an absolute pounding from heavy mechanized convoys during those years, but it held up. It really proved its worth on a national strategic scale.
But it was what happened right after the war, transitioning into the mid-1940s and the 1950s, that truly cemented its legendary status.
Oh, definitely.
Like, the war ends, wartime rationing on gas and tires is lifted, the economy booms, and suddenly average families have disposable income and shiny new automobiles. And that is when Route 66 was officially equipped for mass tourism.
It's fascinating here is the massive cultural mindset shift that occurred right alongside this economic boom.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, for the Americans traveling Route 66 in the 1940s and 1950s, the journey was the destination.
Right.
The road was not just some utilitarian conveyor belt designed to move human beings from point A to point B as fast as possible. It was a sprawling, immersive experience.
Yeah, this is the era everyone pictures, right? Americans are packing up their station wagons, heading west for family vacations to the Grand Canyon or Disneyland.
The classic road trip.
Exactly. And the road is lined with this unbelievable, iconic roadside architecture. You have massive, glowing neon signs buzzing in the desert night.
Oh, yeah.
And why neon? Because business owners had to figure out how to grab the attention of a family driving by at 45 miles an hour in the pitch black.
You had to stand out.
You really did. You have diners housed in buildings shaped like giant hot dogs, loudly boasting about having the best burgers in the world. You have quirky little motels where you could literally sleep inside a concrete teepee.
It became an entire self-sustaining ecosystem of hospitality, novelty, and, honestly, theatrical commerce.
That's a great phrase. Theatrical commerce.
Entire towns along the route owed their complete economic existence to the daily flow of cars passing through their main streets.
It is the exact vibe you see meticulously recreated in Pixar's movie Cars.
Oh, 100%.
Like, the fictional town of Radiator Springs is practically a love letter to this exact era of Route 66. And you can't talk about this cultural peak without mentioning the music, obviously. By 1946, the road was so embedded in the culture that Bobby Troup wrote that absolute classic anthem, Get Your Kicks On, Route 66.
Right, which Nat King Cole made a massive hit.
Yes, it was literally celebrating America's Main Street, name-dropping all these small towns, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, turning them into must-see destinations.
It was a rolling festival. The stops, the neon, the roadside diners, they weren't frustrating interruptions to the trip. They were the primary reason you took the trip in the first place.
But as with all good things, The cultural phenomenon of Route 66 ended up becoming a victim of its own incredible success.
Yeah, it did.
America fell deeply in love with car travel, but then, as traffic congestion worsened, they very suddenly decided they wanted to do it much, much faster. Which brings us to the villain of our story, at least, the villain if you are Route 66 romantic.
Right. The paradigm shifts entirely in 1956. President Dwight D. Eisenhower signs the Federal Aid Highway Act.
And this act launches the era of the modern, highly efficient interstate highway system. The text we have specifically highlights the arrival of Interstate 40 and Interstate 55.
Yep.
These are massive, multi-lane, divided highways designed to crisscross the country without stopping, getting Americans to their destinations as quickly as humanly possible.
Yeah.
But I want to push back a little bit on the pure romanticism of the Mother Road here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because wasn't this 1956 act actually a massive, necessary upgrade for the country?
In what sense?
We just talked about how Route 66 was this meandering road that forced you to slow down to 25 miles an hour to drive directly through the center of every single small town along the way.
Right.
If you are a trucking company trying to move goods across the country, or if you only have a few days off work and you're just trying to get across the state to see your family, that constant stop and go is exhausting.
It definitely is.
So the interstates gave people their time back. It democratized long-distance travel for people who didn't have weeks to just meander through the desert looking at neon signs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was undeniable progress, wasn't it?
Oh, it absolutely was progress. You are not wrong. The sheer utility of the interstate system fundamentally transformed the American economy for the better.
Yeah.
Eisenhower had seen the efficiency of the Autobahn network in Germany during the war, and he knew America needed a high-speed network for both commercial growth and national defense. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, efficiency always comes with a systemic cost. Always.
And what was the specific mechanism that made it so devastating for Route 66? Like, why couldn't they coexist?
It came down to federal funding. The 1956 Act introduced a brilliantly ruthless financial mechanism, a 90-10 funding split.
Okay, what does that mean?
The federal government offered to pay 90% of the construction costs for the new interstates, leaving the states to pay only 10%.
Oh, wow, 90%.
Right. For state governments, this was an offer they just couldn't refuse. Why spend local taxpayer money maintaining the old, winding, two-lane Route 66 when the federal government is practically handing you a state-of-the-art superhighway for pennies on the dollar?
Yeah, that's a no-brainer for a state budget.
Exactly. So, state by state, they began building these massive interstates. Sometimes they built them parallel to Route 66. Sometimes they literally paved the new interstate directly over the old road.
And the systemic fallout for those small towns was just devastating.
Think of it like a human circulatory system. Route 66 was a main artery pumping lifeblood, tourists, money, commerce, directly into the tiny capillaries, which were these small towns.
Okay, I like that analogy.
The new interstates were like a massive surgical bypass. They intentionally routed traffic completely around the towns to maintain high speeds. When you bypass the capillaries, they wither. At first, travelers might still hop off the fast new road to drive a few miles into town to find a motel or a fuel station. But eventually, the free market adapted. Those same amenities began to appear directly along the new interstate exits.
Right. You no longer had to drive into town to get a burger. A standardized fast food joint just built a location right at the off-ramp.
Exactly. There was suddenly zero need to take the old winding route. Route 66 was literally starved of its lifeblood.
The phrase used in the source material is that Route 66 was left in the dust, sliding toward near obsolescence. And the timeline of its demise is honestly a little tragic.
It really is.
You have this vibrant, neon-lit artery of American culture, and piece by piece, state by state, it just gets replaced and forgotten. By 1984, only one single original stretch of Route 66 remained in continuous use, and that was bypassing the town of Williams, Arizona.
Just that one spot.
Yeah. And when Interstate 40 finally bypassed that town, the old road was essentially rendered functionally useless.
And despite local business owners and nostalgic travelers fighting passionately to preserve it, the inevitable bureaucratic conclusion happened. The road was officially decommissioned in 1985.
Just wiped out.
It was decertified as a continuous U.S. highway. The famous black and white shield signs were taken down. The road was quite literally erased from official maps.
Which really feels like the definitive end of the story, right? Like, the road is dead, long live the interstate.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Being erased from the map didn't actually kill Route 66.
No, it didn't.
Ironically, being decommissioned seems to have cemented its legendary status. It transformed the road from a functional, everyday public utility into a coveted, nostalgic pilgrimage.
It became a ghost road, but a ghost road that people actively seek out. And this resurgence isn't just happening by accident. There is a concerted effort behind the scenes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's an incredible organization today called the Road Ahead Partnership. This is a research, education, and advocacy group that essentially made it their absolute mission to bring economic life back to this historic route. But how do they actually do that? Yeah. I mean, if the road isn't on a map, how are they resurrecting it?
It's a lot of grassroots logistics. They aren't just a fan club, you know. The partnership works on securing preservation grants for mom-and-pop shops. They help fund the restoration of those iconic neon signs that have been rusting for 40 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they lobby for historic designations. And they help develop digital maps and travel apps so modern tourists can easily navigate the fragmented pieces of the old road that still exist.
And their work has been incredibly successful. They're attracting a very specific type of traveler. We are talking about thousands of visitors from all over the world.
It's huge internationally.
Right. Massive amounts of international tourists from Europe and Asia who fly into Chicago or LA, rent a car, and specifically flock to these fragmented two-lane roads. And they aren't coming for efficiency. They are coming to see the historic sites, to wander through the ghost towns, and to experience America in what is widely considered its most authentic form.
It raises a fascinating psychological point, I think. Why do people crave this? Why fly across an ocean to drive on a decommissioned, fragmented road that takes twice as long to navigate?
I think it is because, in our modern world, we finally achieved that ultimate frictionless efficiency that Eisenhower wanted, but the unintended result is that every single highway exit looks exactly the same.
Oh, 100%.
You see the result of that today. If you pull off an interstate anywhere in the country, whether you are in Ohio, Texas, or California, it is the exact same 3 fast food chains, the exact same identical corporate gas stations, the same giant box stores.
It's completely predictable.
It is highly predictable, it is incredibly fast, but it is entirely soulless.
It is a sea of homogeneity. It really comes down to the human desire for friction. We constantly say we want our technology and our travel to be seamless.
Yeah.
But when everything is perfectly seamless, nothing is memorable.
Wow, that's so true.
You don't form memories on a perfectly straight, frictionless highway where everything is optimized. Route 66 forces you to slow down. It forces you to engage with your physical surroundings in a way that modern interstates are specifically designed to prevent. It represents the messy, quirky, totally unique charm that our demand for efficiency literally paved right over.
So what does this all mean? We've traced an incredible journey today. Route 66 started out in the 1920s as a rough, rugged, weather-evading dirt path, just trying to get people safely across the country without freezing in the mountains.
Right.
It evolved through the Depression and World War II into America's Main Street, a neon-lit, booming celebration of the great American road trip. Then it became a tragic casualty of our absolute obsession with speed and the interstate funding system.
Yep.
And finally, it has settled into its current, fascinating role as this globally recognized zombie-like symbol of authentic culture that people are actively fighting to preserve.
I think the final word on this is really a masterclass in unintended consequences. The busiest, most functional days of Route 66 are definitely in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
But its enduring legacy, the fact that people are still organizing to fund it, still repairing its neon signs, and still driving its cracked pavement a century after its creation, it proves something profound. It proves that sometimes the very things we eagerly remove for the sake of progress and convenience turn out to be the exact things we end up missing the most.
That is such a powerful way to frame it. And it leaves me with a thought I really want you to mull over after you finish listening to this deep dive. Think about your own digital life right now.
Oh, interesting.
What is the Route 66 of the internet? If you think about it, the early web of the late 90s and 2000s was full of these quirky, meandering, highly independent little corners, personal blogs, and weird forums.
It really was.
Are we currently abandoning all of that unique, messy charm for the high-speed interstates of these massive, homogeneous, algorithmic social media feeds? And if we are, 50 years from now, will we be the ones desperately trying to reconstruct the digital ghost towns we left behind, wishing we had a map to a place that no longer exists?